Check the mic and make sure it sound right, boys.
Welcome to an all-new Build Out live stream. You can join the stream every Wednesday at noon Eastern Daylight Time. The stream will be starting in just 1 minute. In the meantime, let me take this opportunity to talk about the graphic design platform that I use to create the social media graphics, overlays, and studio graphics for the Build Out series. Canva is both an online platform for your desktop and laptop, and also offers an app for smartphones and tablets. With the Canva graphic design platform, you can easily create social media, presentations, posters, documents, and other visual and video content. While there is a free version, Canva is best when using the affordable Canva Pro subscription and Canva Enterprise. So if you want to build out your social media and visual content, you need to use Canva. I'll make it easy for you to sign up. Just use the referral link provided on this stream's event post or in the video description with this stream's recorded posted to my YouTube channel. Okay, now let's get this Build Out live stream started. Today on Build Out, my guest is Chiara Foppa Pedretti. Chiara is joining today's broadcast from Italy, where she is a technical language translator specializing in Italian to English translations. Chiara and I will have a conversation on the topic of language translation as a tool to increase sales. Okay, let's get the conversation with Chiara started. Welcome to Build Out. I'm Jim Kunkel. Chiara, before we start, I want to ask everyone who's watching if you're using Google Translate to translate your technical language documents or any correspondence, manuals, anything, materials, please stop doing it. It's not the right way to do it. My guest today is Chiara, and she is a technical language translator. She comes from Italy, and we're going to be talking about technical language translation used to generate profit for companies. Hi, Chiara.
Hi, thank you for having me here.
It's great to have you. You and I have known each other for a number of years, and you're involved in the surface preparation and coatings industry. You do a lot of technical translation. So the first question I want to ask you is for you to describe you as a professional language translator. What does that mean?
Well, I have been an English to Italian technical translator for over a decade now, and I'm a freelancer. And as you said, I mainly serve the surface treatment and coatings industry, which is why we met. And I often say that I didn't choose this industry, but this industry chose me. Because right after university, I started translating general topic texts and mainly audiovisual material. Cartoons, movies, documentaries. But meanwhile, my father was working, and he is still working, for a surface treatment equipment manufacturer. And ironically, he didn't want to put in a good word for me, but his sales manager knew that I had just started my own business. And he decided to meet me and give me some work. And of course, at the beginning, my dad helped me with the terminology, which I didn't know at the time. But then I started learning everything I needed to know, and I've been lucky enough to find more and more partners to work with from this sector, and the rest is history, as they say. So a technical translator is someone who brings from one language to another documents and content of any type, of course, covering scientific and technical topics, technical texts. And, this may be difficult and challenging because each subject matter, each technical subject matter has its unique set of concepts. And this means that it also has a unique terminology. So that's what a translator does. So the first thing, of course, is to understand such specific terminology and bring it to the second language in order to produce a text that matches the original one. But, sorry.
Oh, no, go ahead. I'm sorry to interrupt you.
I want to say that translation means so much more than that.
Mm-hmm.
You know, we often speak about localization or even culturalization to express this. But fancy words aside, the point is that you must go beyond words, you know, to really carry the actual message of a document, of a text. And I mean, you want to produce a text that, yes, matches the original content, but also sounds like if it were written directly in the target language. And this is easier to understand when thinking about translating a novel, for example. You want to read a smooth text that doesn't contain strange sounding words or jokes or cultural references you don't understand, or maybe, metaphors you don't understand. So that's what makes a good translator. They're invisible, and they produce a text that you can enjoy and understand. So it's not word for word translation, what we're aiming for, but we want to enable our addressee to actually fully understand, and possibly enjoy that particular piece of content. And that's why using Google Translate or even maybe knowing a tiny bit of the target language is not enough. And just consider this, even Google doesn't use Google Translate for its own communication. So enough said.
Yeah, that's interesting to know. That's a fact I did not know. The thing that over years, I've come very aware of is that there is a huge difference between a language translator that has a technical background and can work with the different types of documents. Now, these documents could be anything from user manuals. They could be even through things such as technical papers. It could be contracts. There's so many things that can be scientific and technical in nature that would need to be translated. You just can't go to a language translator because of the lack of the technical side. And so when you're looking at these documents, and now that we've moved into a more of a digital age, and with the pandemic, it really kind of forced a lot of digital transformation to happen for a lot of companies. I know you have been posting a lot related to companies that have kind of failed because what they're doing is they're going to a language translator and not really to a professional technical person to be able to do that. How big of an impact can that have on a company if they're not using the right translator?
Well, very, very high, because you really risk incurring high costs or even potential losses due to poorly translated text. Just think of the damage to your corporate image, or even the risk in wrongly translated text, for example, in healthcare or in construction, which may be very critical. And I can make a very recent example here about in terms of corporate image damage. Facebook has recently announced that its company name has changed into Meta, as the metaverse. But Meta in Hebrew, it sounds like the word dead, and in Portuguese, it is the imperative form of a verb that means to have intercourse. So to me, it's really appalling that such a global company apparently didn't make any linguistic validation of the new brand name,
Yeah, and so for image damage, and also too, the potential liability when it comes to lawsuits and other legal activities that could really come onto a company. When companies are really looking to assess, when we're looking to expand, let's say expand into foreign markets, let's say from America here, Italy. Obviously, you're very knowledgeable about Italy and everything related to the culture, the business environment, the technical environment, especially when it comes to the industry, that you work in and you support. why companies might say, why can't we just take our documents and leave them in English and not translate them? And I'll say, even with English, there's different forms of English. American English is different than the UK and Australia. So there's different versions of English out there as well. Why is it so important for a company to translate, and let's say, into Italian if they want to really get into the market in Italy?
Yeah, first of all, we all prefer to read in our own language because it is easier, it is less tiring, it guarantees that you understand all nuances of the text. And secondly, you English native speakers tend to underestimate that, but you make up only 5% of the world's population. And the sum of English native and non-native speakers makes up only a quarter of internet users globally. Yes, there are many people speaking your language, but in some cases you need to speak theirs, you know. And I think in this era, businesses aim at being, on the one hand, people-centric, that is, nurturing their relations with their own employees, and on the other hand, customer-centric, that is geared to understanding and meeting customers' needs. And language is truly a key factor here. On the one hand, you want to enable your own employees to access information, data, and research paper, I don't know, from anywhere in the world, and to the benefit of your whole company, of course. And on the other hand, when it comes to relations with your own foreign customers and partners, of course, translation done properly, it gives you access to a wider global market. And it also improves your corporate image, your customer experience, and ultimately your sales figures. Recent research from the European Commission found that 82% of users prefer to buy goods online if the website is in their native language. And similar percentages are found when we talk about the language in which customer assistance is offered. So this tells us that language is a more important factor than price and many other factors.
Interesting. Here's a question that came up regarding when it comes to structure, language, talking about, people from Germany describe, for instance, a bridge as a strong structure, a power within their language. However, in Spain, it's normally described in a more feminine structure. Beautiful, magnificent. Does people's thoughts actually reflect local languages?
Yeah, of course. Language and culture are intertwined in so many ways. And that's also why you need a professional translator to handle your documents, because they will handle these aspects too, these cultural aspects, from, I don't know, different units of measurement, prices and currencies, and date and time formats, to stuff like the layout of the text, which may need to be changed to accommodate different characters, to images that may be inappropriate, maybe in another culture.
Yeah.
Colors that may carry different meanings in different cultures. And so, of course, also metaphors or language. In some cases, the translator will completely detach themselves from the text and rewrite the sentence. Just in the example made, you may change the adjectives. You really need to produce a text that will resound with the target reader.
Yeah, when I would do, let's say, for example, Spanish, and really what I found is that Spanish in South America, Spanish is different than in Spain and Europe. And the same thing with Portuguese and the Brazilian Portuguese versus Portuguese. What I would typically do is, in most cases, I would rely on a translation service or let's say an app, and then translate it to the best of my ability, because we're talking about maybe presentations or documents or emails. We're not talking about manuals or real high intensity documents and things like that. And I was lucky because I had a lot of professional contacts that I could say, hey, Juan, or hey, Johnny, could you take a look at this and let me know if I'm wording this properly? Does it make sense? Is the structure proper? And I'd be amazed just to see what a huge difference in some cases, what came out of a translation app versus what is the reality is two different things. So when we look at the documents that are being done, document quality is super important, but also accuracy and consistency. And I know you have examples where you found documents that were translated and they didn't have the quality or the accuracy that were built into it. Do you have any other stories that you could tell regarding, let's say, the quality aspect or the accuracy?
Well, I got many of them.
Excellent.
Well, in general, I can say that it happens a lot that companies rely on general translators
Mm-hmm.
and not technical translators. So in many cases, the problem is especially in the use of the right terminology, because that's the key, right, in translation. If you fail to accurately translate the terms, the technical terms, the translation fails its purpose. So I've had a client having me rewrite, I think, almost all their website for this reason.
Mm.
They paid at a local translation agency, but they weren't sure about their work and had me check it out, and everything was wrong in terms of I mean, also of jargon. You know, maybe the term does exist, the technical term does exist, but it doesn't exist, or it isn't used in that specific company or industry or in a specific geographical area, you know? So really, technical translation done professionally brings a series of advantages to companies. Of course, accuracy and consistency is one of them. Also, in terms of like words that are recurring in your documents, maybe because they are recurring in your industry, or maybe because they are part of your own special communication style, you know, of your company. And here I can reveal to you a secret of translators. We have, aside of course, our own specific skills and expertise, we have specific technologies to do that. In particular, we use CAT tools, which means computer-assisted translation tools, which help us translate words, sentences, or even paragraphs in a consistent way by recording previously translated documents. And we may also use, in some cases, machine translation, which is translation automatically done by software, not Google Translate, but something working similarly. And of course, then we edit it, but we might use it in some cases just to speed up our work and to guarantee we always find the best way possible to translate something, a sentence or a word. But there are so many other advantages of hiring a professional translator. I can say that it guarantees that you have high quality documents circulating in and out of your company. You want high level technologies at your premises, high level staff, high level software and hardware. So don't settle for low level translations, you know? And then, as we already said, you avoid the risk of incurring high costs or potential losses or corporate image damage. And also you have accurate documents circulating within and outside your company. And you also, I mean, like you make sure you always comply with local laws, both on your own market and on foreign markets.
Yeah, Johnny posted. I like the last part of his post here. Meeting for meeting is the goal, and really that's so true. You were talking about jargon, industry jargon. You're talking about in some cases also to some legal language as well. And Carl had posted, how when it comes to the technical language translation, how would you interface, let's say, with legal counsel? And he talks about working on a project in China where legal counsel was present 90% of the time with the government entities and 50% of the time with the contractors. So you might have some oversight when it comes to that international business relation that's going on. And then sometimes legal counsel's involved in, these documents are being translated. Have you had experience working or had any experiences, let's say, interfacing with legal counsel as well and some of the documentation you've translated?
I must admit, no. But of course, that's a cultural problem. I'm
Mm-hmm.
currently reading this book, which is the Culture Map by Erin Meyer, and I really like it because it really helps understand how different people from different cultures and speaking different languages really think in different ways. You know, uh, Language gives you a specific structure into your mind, that you carry over your entire life, and also the culture you live in, or the school system will change the way you think. I really like one example, since I'm Italian and you're American. Um, Italy is a culture that likes principles first. Like, if I have to persuade you or to explain you something, I like to explain the why and then tell you what. And America is one of the cultures that prefers application first. So you say the what and the how, maybe then the why. So
Uh,
that's cultural differences, and of course they mirror in the language.
Yeah, that's a great point. And the other thing too, that inexperienced companies who need to get technical language translation, a trap that they fall into, they'll go out for bids, they'll go out for proposals, and let's say they have a technical manual they need to get translated into Italian from American English. They will send it to language translators, and sometimes they miss, or sometimes they only get a couple technical language translators. The bids come in. Now, obviously, you have a premium service that you're offering. So you're going to be competitive with other technical language translators in your marketplace. But when you come to a basic language translator that does not have that technical type of background or experience, they're going to come in at a lower bid. And sometimes companies will fall in the trap of, well, let's go with that translator because they're at this cost versus what Chiara has offered. I know you've encountered that, and I think you've done an awesome job on your LinkedIn profile. And I advise everyone to follow Chiara and look at her post, because she tells some incredible horror stories when it comes to what companies have fallen into this trap. What advice do you have for anyone who might be watching that has a business, or they're looking to do language translation? It could be English to Italian, or any language translation with a technical aspect to it. What advice do you have for them when they need to go out there and look for sources to be able to get proposals and bids from? How should
I
they qualify their translator? Let's say that. How can they translate, or sorry, qualify the translator?
People have two main paths to become a technical translator. They study translation, and then specialize in a technical field, as I did, or they're expert in a subject matter and then go on and study how to translate. And this can be done with university level, college, special training courses. So actually, there are many possible certifications and accreditations for translators, including, for example, those issued by professional associations in every country. So when you're looking for a translator and you don't know where to start, certainly professional associations are a very good starting point. Of course, a LinkedIn search might be of great help. And as what worked in my case with my customer, you can also use direct referrals. I mean, ask someone you trust in your industry if they know a translator in a given language, and then you can talk to the translator and see if they know your industry, your type of product. See if you can read some of their previous translations, and even have their previous work checked by someone else if you need to assess their skills. And companies may wonder if they should talk to a translator, an independent translator, or to a translation agency. And I may be biased here, of course, as I'm a freelancer, but I think agencies are a very good option if you have multilingual, large multilingual projects to handle, because they will manage all the different translators required and come back to you with the final text with little or no involvement from your part. But in all other cases, I think getting to know the person who's going to handle your documents is always the best choice, also to retain as much control as possible over the process.
So I'm going to pop up a very big message here from Golnar from Turkey, and he's, complimenting obviously Chiara. You talk about Google, it doesn't even come close, obviously the translation. And he talks like, for instance, in Turkey we have two different words for the term blasting. Well, one of them is commonly used in general industry. The other one's used for marine. Due to the technical development of the industry, we even had to invent new Turkish words in order to describe the right term and make them understandable. And that, what he is mentioning, is the same encounter that I've had when it comes to certain of that, let's say, industry jargon. It could be describing a piece of equipment. It could be the terminology, let's say, that we use here in North America does not translate properly in another language, or it means something completely different. And that something completely different could be something either derogatory or something that sounds super crazy dangerous. I've had situations like that. In some cases, you might have to try to work with the industry you'd say, in your region, in your country, to kind of come up with new jargon or terminology that makes sense to, again, the localized culture, the business environment, or the people of the region or the country. So you've encountered that. I know that. And you probably have had certain words that come across. What do you typically do if you get a jargon word? What do? You normally talk to several people to try to get a better understanding so that you can break that down and translate that? Or how do you approach those jargon words in the industries?
Yeah, of course. Google is a Google search is the first go-to, and then you need to talk to someone who really understands the jargon from that area or that industry, And also, we have to be careful because, if sometimes if a concept doesn't exist in a culture, chances are that a word for it doesn't exist as well. Just think, for example, about innovations that are yet to be made known internationally, or think about so-called minor languages, which aren't tied to a culture with a scientific heritage. And this may all pose a problem here. And of course, professionally, you have many ways to handle this, but let's just make a few examples. In Italian, we use the word software. We don't use an Italian one, but we borrow the English one.
Mm-hmm.
In other cases, maybe with compound phrases, you attempt a calque of the individual words. So, for example, quality assurance, in French, it simply becomes assurance qualité. Or you may try to make a literal translation. Or, as we were saying before, you may rewrite completely the sentence to explain that foreign concept from scratch. So I would say that all in all, a technical translator needs to do three things. Really understanding what is meant, finding the way to convey the message into the target language, and also find the right style or tone to do so, with the right reader in mind. I mean, like a website doesn't have the same style of a patent. A safety sheet won't be read probably by the same person reading a contract, and therefore hiring a professional technical translator means that they will take care of all these aspects and that they will navigate your documents more easily compared with a generic translator, and that they will work more quickly, more efficiently, and hopefully with better results.
Yeah, and I like earlier your recommendation, you being a freelancer, you're not going to take on a large marketing campaign where it has multiple facets and things like that. But as a freelancer, you're going to be able to work on those individual documents, or maybe a series of documents that's tied to a product or a service. The other thing is for quality control. You had mentioned about having someone translate into Italian, or vice versa, really, too, to go from Italian to English, a website, and you went through and you found, obviously you're doing the quality assurance, and you found all of the mistakes that were made to be able to correct it, and things like that. So I do like that aspect of it too, for, ideas of how to really approach this, depending on the complexity of the project, or the complexity of let's say, the volume of the amount of, let's say, documents or things that are going to be really kind of translated. That's going to be the determining factor. Do you go with a freelance, or do you go through a technical translation agency? How do you market as a freelancer? How do you market? Is there any websites that you could go to? I know, like, there's Fiverr and all that for, if you want to get graphics made and things like that. You do a lot through LinkedIn, but how else do you market yourself? I'm curious on that.
Personally, I mainly use LinkedIn, and I do have a website, of course. But if maybe another technical translator is listening to us, there are some translator portals that also, of course, customers can use. And the most famous one being Prose, like Proz. And yeah, you create a profile, of course, and you participate in forums. And there's also a nice section with glossaries and pages in which you can ask for help translating even technical words or sentences. So this might come in useful.
Yeah, and definitely, obviously, reach out to Chiara if you're looking to do any of the Italian to English, or Italian to English, or English to Italian. And what's that again?
English to Italian is better.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
You should also always translate into your native language.
There you go. Chiara, what an awesome conversation we had. Is there anything that we did not talk about that you would want to, leave with the viewers before we end this broadcast?
Yeah, I think the main lesson to be learned today is that language translation is really a key factor in today's business world. And therefore, it should not be handled as a marginal activity or as an afterthought. It should be taken into consideration and integrated in your workflow as early as possible. If you need your own content to be translated, even write it with that in mind, because this will make sure that the quality is the highest possible, up to the level you strive for in any other aspect of your business. I mean, you spend much time, resources, effort on fine-tuning your products, your technologies, your services, and on marketing and copywriting, and on negotiating maybe with an international customer. And then you can't come to me and say, I need this 50-page user manual translated for tomorrow because I'm selling a machine. And this has happened to, you recently had some guests talking about doing business abroad, Colombia, Ecuador, Panama. But the translation work that goes with it is too often neglected. And so, to conclude, language is a strategic growth driver for companies, and it should be never underestimated.
Excellent closing thought on that, and great advice. Chiara, other than LinkedIn, how can people get in contact with you? Your website, social media?
Yeah, of course, LinkedIn is the easiest way to find me and to start a conversation, but I do have a website, chiarafoppapedretti.it, or you can send me an email at chiara@chiarafoppapedretti.it.
Excellent. And for those who are watching it live, you can always watch the replay to get all that spelled out. Chiara had to send me, or I'm sorry, you sent me a voice message to pronounce your name, and I'm very happy that I think I pretty much nailed it at the beginning. But I'm just so glad I didn't have to continue to say your full name, because it can be a little difficult. But listen, we all have sometimes difficult names for some people. So someone had an interesting topic. Mandarin language. So there are certain languages that are going to dominate and need to be translated. And to your point, when you're looking at the amount, let's say related to English speaking, it might not be a big percentage out there, but depending on the different types of languages, and there are certain ones that you're going to have to translate into. So that's a good point. Chiara, thank you so much. And before we really end this, I wanted to bring up for next week's guest, for next Wednesday at noon, I'm going to have David and Steve from the Community Association Car Chat. We're going to be talking about webcasting and content creation, and they're going to talk about their Community Association Car Chat and a little bit of what they do when it comes to content creation and how to get your message out there through video, and also utilizing LinkedIn and other type of media sources as well. Chiara, thank you so much. I really appreciate this opportunity. You and I have been talking for quite a number of months to set this up, and it's great. And so happy to have you and everything like that on Build Out. And hopefully you can come back again, and we can talk about some other technical language topics as well.
Sure. Thank you very much.
Okay. Have a great rest of your evening.
Yeah.
And everybody, good day, and we'll see you next Wednesday.
Bye. Thank you.